What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Physical Switch 2 games are going crazy right now online, specifically 2 of them, and people are asking exactly what is happening here, but I fear we take a look at that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Phantom Blade Zero because they have a big time event coming up next week for it, but even with some of the stuff they've put out there, this game keeps looking better and better and better. And we had PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium games that were revealed, and you know what? It was shockingly good, even when you get down, yes, to the premium retro titles. But we'll look at all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over the world of gaming news, trying to keep you up to date. So just know, if you don't get a notification in the morning, there's probably a video to check out here on YouTube or also here on Spotify, full video and audio available there each morning. And we're going to start today with Asha Sharma, who decided to send this message out. Now, this was over on her Twitter account saying live playthrough of the Elder Scrolls 6, and then there's 8 asterisks there this morning. The scale and grandeur are incredible. The story is even greater. So first, they're gonna have to figure out that title because I don't know if that's necessarily going to work across the board for box art or in retail settings in the computer. I mean, if you just have asterisks there, I don't even know if those POS systems are set up to track that. Okay, obviously, she's kind of redacted the title itself. Now, people are then also going down the rabbit hole of, okay, what does that line up with? I've seen Sentinel getting thrown around, but people are like, no, that's not right. The bottom line is, it's doing what she expected it to, which is I'll put one breadcrumb out there, and then people will start to gather a bunch of breadcrumbs together and make the trail that'll keep everyone busy. Although I will say, when I read this, I looked at it and said, that kind of looks like something Phil Spencer would have tweeted out, so be a little careful with that one, but I get the idea of just getting people excited for the idea of the next Elder Scrolls game, even though we may be a few years off from that one. Also, we did have a couple of Xbox controllers that were announced that one in particular looks awesome, and you can see it here. Now, Xbox did put out an entire video showcasing this. We have some screenshots here too. The one on the left, though, the Gears of War E-Day limited edition controller. They have like the blacked out buttons on the right side there. They have one red joystick, one blacked out. I just like the red cog there in the middle, just exploding outwards. The entire control looks very much textured, so super unique. Really, really like that design. It's set to release September 30th. They are accepting pre-orders on their website now. It is $90, so that one's not necessarily coming cheap. The one on the right appears to be done with their design lab, so you'd be able to add a couple of extra finishing touches here and there, and maybe be able to change up some of the button colors or put an inscription on it. So just, you can go a little further, but I definitely like the standard limited edition Gears of War E-Day controller more than the Design Labs one. I'm not the big Gears of War guy, so like if this was a Halo one, I'd be like, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick that up. But I think in this case, I will just kind of I will observe this from afar, okay? So cool, awesome stuff there, of course, for Gears of War fans. That just looks like an awesome controller to go along with what I think was a pretty fun beta for it. I did play the multiplayer for Gears of War E-Day, and it was very enjoyable. I liked it more than Gears of War Reloaded, although that's an older Gears of War that they then brought up again, so that one felt kind of old to me. This one, though, with some of the vaulting and splitting up some of the different buttons based on what they do, felt more modern, and I'd even say felt a bit more fluid, and because of that, I had more fun with it. So I am looking forward to Gears of War E-Day. Really cool to see a couple of controllers there to go along with that release. Oh, and I hope you're sitting down for this one. There is a very good chance that there's going to be a Spider-Man 3 game released on PlayStation. I know. Well, this we can see was posted up. This is over on the Spider-Man CD account saying, Marvel Spider-Man 3 has shown up on IMDB Pro, both paid and free versions, and the IMDB database. The last official entry was in January 2026. And look, there's been a lot of stuff that's been found online kind of pointing to, you guessed it, another Spider-Man game. And just based on what we see with Spider-Man Brand New Day, Spider-Man is Sony's strongest mascot at this point for their game system, and it's not even necessarily theirs on the video game side. On the movie side, sure, but for gaming, they do have to go to Marvel to be able to put that game together, of course, along with Insomniac, which they do own that studio, but it's still kind of this spiderweb, if you will, of rights and ownership and stuff, but it makes a lot of money, so it also, I'm sure, costs a lot, but it makes a lot of money, brings a lot of interest. So Spider-Man 3, I'm wondering how they're going to approach that. PS5, cross-gen with PS6, Is it a PS6 exclusive? A lot of questions there. If I had to guess, probably cross-gen and still probably a few years off. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Switch 2 and physical games. I mean, who's buying those? We've seen so many reports and spreadsheets that have it in single digits, if that, for physical games. Now, look, I know for Nintendo, it seems to be a much larger share of the pie than what we've seen, say, from Capcom, who counts basically all their Switch 2 releases as digital games because of those game key cards, even though they are technically in stores with a cartridge that you can sell and trade and let people borrow. Nonetheless, that's digital. But here's the thing. Physical games that are releasing on Nintendo's platform still are selling. Like, we see it in the Japanese sales reports from Famitsu every single week. And now we're kind of seeing it in the open or free market. And because the demand seems to be outweighing the supply of these cartridges, the price is going crazy right now. And these two releases, one in particular, definitely high profile, but the other one, yeah, I'd say it still is. And it has kind of that sense of, oh wow, they actually got it on the cartridge. And that's coming from Bethesda. Shockingly enough, yes, technically Microsoft is the one that is making the Switch 2 market go crazy right now over Indiana Jones and The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. So these are two games that are fully on the cartridge for both. So if you buy Indiana Jones, you pop it in, it will be playable right there from the cartridge. Yes, there will be some sort of update you can download, and it's a newer version of it that I'm sure fixes some issues. But for the most part, if you bought the game and you're about to get on an airplane and you're going to play the game for so many hours on your flight, it will work. You won't have to download 60 gigabytes or so because it's a game key card. And I do think there is still a level of convenience there that is recognizable by customers, by gamers, right? So there is still a pull to buy the cartridge if the game is fully on it. And what better way to see this reflected than on good old eBay, because these games are indeed sold out. I was looking all over the place to see if anyone locally or even just online places like Amazon had it at the retail price. I couldn't find either of these. So if you start with Indiana Jones here and you just scroll through some of the sold listings on eBay, guys, it's over $100. In some cases, it's approaching like $140 to $150 for Indiana Jones. It gets really crazy when you look at Oblivion, though. That one at times is approaching $200. I mean, I'm consistently seeing over 150, 160, there's 180. It is very, very interesting to see this. And Oblivion, I will say on the Switch 2, it does fall in that category of good enough for people because the fact that it is a portable system, again, the convenience factor playing into it. Is it as good as the other versions in terms of maybe visuals or frame rate? Not necessarily. I did get a chance to check it out a bit, and it's like in the 20s when you're outside walking around, like frame rate wise. I will say DLSS is doing quite a bit of heavy lifting here, despite some of the stuttering that happens when you're playing the game. It actually looks cleaner than I think most people were expecting in docked mode, but then also in handheld play. The point is, it works directly off the cartridge, and it's not completely broken. So there you go. Now it's $180 on eBay. And then also, technically, Bethesda did use the fact that it's a full physical release as a marketing tactic. And why wouldn't they? I mean, that is something that sets them apart a bit, as they are tapping, clearly, 64 gigabyte cartridges, because they would need that for the file size of either of these games. So on one hand, it's good to see that, but on the other, it kind of makes me think that they didn't order a ton of these and then ship them out, because there is significant risk involved. I mean, 64 gigabyte cartridges are not cheap. So it's easier to start off with a limited run or release or printing of these games, test the market, see where it is, and then you introduce another run or another print of these games. What I'm saying is, don't buy these on eBay, because you most likely in a few weeks' time, maybe a month's time, you'll probably see more of these appear online and then drive the price back down. We had something similar happen, I remember, with Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade on the PlayStation 5, and the price of that thing jumped up like $150 some odd dollars, and then we got another wave of prints, and it fell back down under $100. So I'm kind of thinking something similar would happen here with Oblivion and Indiana Jones. Probably Indiana Jones first, because Oblivion is like the big headliner right now and people seem genuinely excited or interested in it. So for now, sit tight. The other thing I'm sure they're thinking, Bethesda, oh, maybe they'll just buy it digitally. This is one that I think is really cool to have on the cartridge, fully complete. So just putting that out there, hang out a bit, give it a few weeks and see where we are with the market. Next up, let's talk about Phantom Blade Zero, as we have a dedicated state of play for this game next week. And then we even had like an extended trailer for it. There's a lot of stuff happening with a game that I think is setting up to be a pretty big deal going into the holiday season here. So let's start, of course, with the timing for this. Now, this dedicated state of play has been confirmed for August 17th, 10 p.m. Eastern. One of those rare late night state of plays for the East Coast. I mean, hey, if you're on the West Coast, 7 p.m. is like perfect prime time there for the state of play. Nearly 20 minutes of new gameplay. But along with this announcement, we did get that extended gameplay trailers released, and it looks good. I mean, the opening was, you're kind of on like horseback. Technically, you're being pulled along in like a carriage and a horseback, and you're fighting a bunch of enemies on horses. And then some crazy person who was running up the side of the mountain jumps in, and you have a whole over-the-top action sequence. And that's what I've taken away from this game every time we've seen it. It looks awesome. Completely plays into, say, the Ninja Gaiden kind of theme, which is what they do compare it to. They say it's an action RPG with some Souls-like influence for the environments or exploration, but they really seem to pull from things like Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry. And just looking at the action we've seen, I mean, yeah, it lines up perfectly with that description. I mean, the bosses that they keep showing at the end, they have like a kind of a sizzle reel. They look super unique and interesting. Like, they all seem to have their own different mechanics, but to the point where it affects like their character models, and there's just a lot of creativity going on here. And here's the thing, they mentioned the price. It's $60. So it's not even aiming for, say, the full $70. They have like a special edition or limited edition one, but I'm just looking at the standard price of $60. That's not bad. Now, here's the other thing, though. We have not seen a mention of a physical copy yet for this game as of this recording. That can change, of course, as we go into the state of play, but just putting that out there. The release date, though, remember, it got moved. It's October 29th now, so a little later on. But here's the fun part. We might be playing this game a bit sooner than that, as a person on Reddit did notice that a demo listing popped up on PlayStation Network. It was pulled down, but it was up long enough to get a screen grab of it being mentioned. So what I assume is going to happen here, we're going to go into the state of play. They're going to show us stuff, as they mentioned, for about 20 minutes of new gameplay. It'll look cool. People will be excited, I'm sure. And then they'll say, hey, you can try out the demo. I'm curious if this is a situation where it's a demo where the save data carries over and you play maybe the first, I don't know, half an hour of the game. It'd be cool if it was longer than that, but let's say it's the first 30 minutes of the game, save data carries over. Or maybe it's just a section that they carve out and they're like, you can just play as much as you want here and you'll have to restart your game when the Phantom Blade Zero actually comes out. The reason I really want to play this is because it is lining up, as they mentioned, like a Ninja Gaiden or a Devil May Cry, but the timing, say for parries or dodges or attacks, are just completely different between even those two. So I sort of want to get a feel for the game and see where it sits there with the controls when you're actually playing the game, because everything else about it so far looks awesome. So, I mean, we're heading towards, I think, again, is going to be a really good release here, unless something catastrophic happens and it comes out and the performance is really bad in terms of the technical side or something like that, because, man, every time they've shown it, it's looked better and better and better. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for Phantom Blade Zero, and I'm very interested to see what they have in store for us next week at that state of play. Next up, let's talk about Ghost of Yotei, as a complete edition has been announced. It's releasing October 1st, and yes, there will be a physical edition released for the complete edition, but we had an entire trailer that was released along with a PlayStation blog post that went over further details for it. You can see some of the trailer here. Now, they do say it has a story expansion as well as a new wanted mode. The story expansion is titled Echoes of Sekigahara. You have new lands to explore, weapons, enemies. They're going to take advantage more so of remember the flashbacks, if you play Ghost of Yotei, that were happening there? Apparently, they're going to relive Atsu's past that way and just, I guess, go a bit further with it. So I guess in that case, I'm more curious how they intertwine that with the story, with present day, then jumping back and forth. Because while it was a cool idea, it did also feel kind of jarring. And there were at least 2 instances where I was like, okay, we're doing the flashback thing again. So maybe they can do a better job bringing that into focus and having it line up a bit more with the story based on what is happening at that point and push things forward, since it's going to be more of a focus here in I mean, it's an expansion and it's going to play off of the main story, but it'll kind of be, I assume, sectioned off a bit here. Now, the Most Wanted mode, they say, is their take on the roguelike. All right, so you complete runs to unlock perks and unlock new characters, and they were showing a few of the different characters from the game, so it is kind of neat that you can play as different people outside of Atsu here, but they are also adding in new trophies, so more stuff there, of course, for trophy hunters to collect. If you already have the game, it is a $15 upgrade. I think they mentioned that there's a sale right now, so it might be like it's like $12 upgrade. A little more expensive than the $10 upgrade we had coming off of the PS4 to the PS5 generation. So I don't know, yay inflation or whatever else they want to say with that. But if you do buy it fully, like you've waited this whole time, you're like, all right, I'm getting that complete edition now. Finally, it's $70. So it'll just have this at like retail straight up with a disc. So there you go. They're at least continuing that trend again up until the beginning of 2028. I like Ghost of Yotei. I'm interested here with the expansion. You know what? I will say the Wanted mode, the roguelike, kind of curious about that because I did like God of War, the Valhalla thing they released. That was more fun than I was expecting. So I wonder if they kind of took a page out of Santa Monica's book for this one and it's going to be kind of similar to that. So that could be really cool because there was actually like interesting story beats that were happening there as well. So that's the one I'm curious about. But of course, the expansion, more trophies. It's just more Ghost of Yotei, and I did enjoy that game quite a bit when it released last year. The other thing though is I'm also a little surprised they didn't wait for the PS6 for this one, but then I remembered, oh yeah, Ghost of Tsushima came out right up against the PS5 just about a few months before, and then a year later, they came out with the director's cut. So this is actually lining up with their previous schedule they had, and I'm sure, they do eventually, Sucker Punch, want to move on to the next thing, so they kind of have to get this out sooner rather than later. I don't think they're going to wait all the way until potentially end of 27, beginning of 28 even, to release this thing and get moving to the next project. So this seems to line up more so with the timeline they've been used to, even with the Ghost franchise at this time. But let me know what you think about the Ghost of Yotei expansion, the roguelike mode, or if you're thinking about picking it up for the first time. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, because this is a pretty strong month. I was going through the game titles and I was like, whoa, okay, there's actually pretty good stuff in here. And then I got to the end with the premium retro games, expecting one title. No, there were two. And I will tell you now, if you have not seen the list, there is zero chance you will guess the title that is coming to PlayStation Plus. All right, I'll give you an. It's from the PS1 generation. Good luck guessing this, but we'll start here from the top. This over on PlayStation blog. Now, these games will be going into the service August 18th. There is one, I believe, that's off from that outside of Helldivers 2, which is available right now. And that's a good one to check out immediately. If you have not, you've heard a lot of things about it. I mean, Helldivers 2 just dropping in, that will, of course, help the game quite a bit because that means everyone with PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, of course, can jump in. This is a live service type game that has found incredible success under Sony, both on PlayStation and on PC, and interesting enough, on Xbox. Will Helldivers 2 go into Game Pass? That's something I wondered. It's like, okay, it's in PlayStation Plus. Would Sony do that? I don't know. This is something to think about there for a minute. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that's on the PS5 heading into the service. Vampire Survivors. Don't sleep on Vampire Survivors. I've actually been having a lot of fun with that game, and it's in like spurts. You don't have to play it a ton all at once. You can pick it up for 10 minutes, 15 minutes at a time, do a run, and then come back later on. And it's actually a ton of fun, and you build up your characters, and it's good. That's one I would recommend popping in and just checking out, see what you think. Hell Is Us. I've been talking about this one for a while, and now it's in Game Pass and in PlayStation Network, so I held out for so long. It's in both subscription services. This one, though, will be heading into the service August 25th, all right? Then we have Yuma Masumi Pretty Derby Party Dash. I don't know what that is, but it's that one's coming to the service August 25th. 2 Point Museum on the PS5, also August 25th. Metro Exodus, that one's on the August 25th. And then we've already talked about Dying Light 2. Of course, they say that will be available August 25th. So they're doing this thing where they're kind of staggering the releases. I don't know if that's really necessary anymore. I mean, I say anymore. This is something they're trying recently. I've just released it all. Okay. Anyway, then we go on to PlayStation Plus Premium. Onimusha, Dawn of Dreams, good game. That was on the PS2 back in the day. I remember playing it and getting a kick out of it. So here we go. It's going into PlayStation Plus Premium and should have trophies and stuff. Although Capcom's kind of weird, so We'll see. And then Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire. What? It's so random. But this is the thing. I really like when you get that random announcement for like a retro game going into premium that I was not expecting, was not thinking about, and now here I am staring at a PS1 Disney's Atlantis. All right, on the PS5. And I mean, I looked up gameplay for it because I had the PS1 back then, but I would mostly rent games, and I feel like I looked at the Atlantis game, but I never rented it. And I checked it out, and you know what? Visually speaking, it looked pretty good for the PS1 title. And then I checked, and it came out in 2001, so it was like a super late PS1 game, technically, based on the generation going into the PS2. So again, it's just something, the discovery aspect to it, just kind of finding a random game that you wouldn't have thought of. And if it has trophy support, you might have people going through it that would have never played the game otherwise, mostly just to find that platinum trophy. So just interesting thing to see, but I'd say for the most part, pretty strong month for PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which handheld was your favorite generation for Pokemon? Okay, the DS is leading the way, which makes me feel very old. That's 34%. Game Boy Advance, 28%. Game Boy Color at 28%. 3DS at 10%. So there is a story going around, and I think we're going to cover it tomorrow about more older Pokemon games going to Nintendo with the Switch and Switch 2, and I think it makes sense, but I was looking into that just a little bit further before we covered it. But for me, it's Game Boy and Game Boy Color, and that's mostly just because I remember very vividly when Pokemon first showed up and the rush for it, and you literally everywhere you went, for the most part, you'd see kids playing Pokemon. Like, you walk into, I remember this is one of those things where for some reason you remember specifically going to McDonald's and seeing kids at like the booths playing on a Game Boy Brick or a Game Boy Color, and they have Pokemon Red or Blue or even Yellow at that time, and it's just, you couldn't escape it. Pokemon was going crazy. Pokemon's very popular now, but back then, I feel like the cards were popular, but it almost felt like the game was more popular than the cards back then, from what I remember, my point of view. Now it feels like the cards are like insane, and it's just because the money values attached to them are just going ridiculous at this point. But it was another world, another lifetime back then. Late 90s with Pokemon going crazy. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Maniac, who says, would love to see a Spire remaster of The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age. That is just random enough for them to do it. And you know what's funny? You're mentioning this. I've seen this game pop up a few times over the last couple of weeks on Twitter because people are posting video clips of it. They go, oh yeah, this was kind of a Final Fantasy X, a take on Final Fantasy X, but in the Lord of the Rings universe. And I'm like, what? I remember seeing the box art for this game up on the shelf, but I never really played it or thought much of it. And I see gameplay, I'm like, yeah, that does kind of look like Final Fantasy X with the Lord of the Rings skin. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings person, but that sounds crazy. So because it's such a random thing, it wouldn't shock me if, yeah, one day you wake up and there's a press release going around that they are remastering, that being Aspire, they're remastering Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, because the most recent one, no one was expecting that, and they just kind of shadow drop it for $20. So, hey, hold out hope, you might get it, okay? Third Age could just randomly drop for $20 one day. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you wanted to hear more about how Sony is being pressured pretty much constantly now from regulators, lawsuits, the whole thing around digital rights. I did a whole video looking into that, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.